Hello and welcome to the AWS Online Tech Talk series. My name is Ayush Shan and I'm a Senior Product Marketing Manager at AWS. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing Shai Ziv from GroupM, the world's largest media investment group. With almost 25 years of experience in the software development and IT world, Shai has in-depth knowledge in designing technology products and leading software teams, technical sales, and IT operations from startup to enterprise environments. In his current role, Shai is managing a group of 30 engineers that implement and operate data and analytics products. In his previous position, Shai was the CIO at JPay, an online service provider in the US correction industry. In this role, Shai managed technology development and oversaw all IT aspects while the company grew from $750,000 to $25 million annually. In 2000, Shai joined the startup Apilog that built an auto discovery and applications mapping software for IT managers to understand applications deployment on the underlying IT infrastructure. Shai started as a software development team lead and later took on a technical sales manager role as the startup was sold to Mercury Interactive in 2004 and later on to HP in 2007. He has a bachelor's degree in computer science from the Tel Aviv University in Israel. So over the next 30 minutes, Shai will be walking us through GroupM's journey in modernizing their analytics platform with Amazon Redshift, Matillion, and Tableau. I also want to introduce Teresa Hambleton and David Lipowitz from Matillion, who will join me in moderating the chat and answering any questions you may have while Shai is speaking. We will leave 15 minutes at the end for Shai to answer some of the questions as well. With that, let me hand it off to Shai.
So thank you, Ayush. So today I would like to cover a brief introduction of who we are and what we're doing, and then move to describe the problem, what the world used to be look like, how did we solve it, what steps we took to get there, and what hurdles, what issues that we overcome in the process. For this, let's start with what we have in the legacy, what we call the GroupM DAP. But before we do this, let's just talk a little bit who are we. So GroupM is the largest advertising media company in terms of billing. We have 30,000 employees globally in 400 offices over 100 countries. GroupM is part of WPP Group and serves as a parent company to media agencies such as Mindshare, Mediacom, Wavemaker, Essence, Gentiri, Xaxis, and others. Through our agency, we offer services such as media planning and media buying, like what TV commercials to play, where and when. We're also offering digital media planning and execution in direct channels, for example, what ad to display on what sites, to what audience, and also when. We run search and social media marketing campaigns and do out-of-home advertising and other services around the media delivery. Our clients are major brands in each industry, names like Unilever, P&G, Danone, T. Rowe Price, Mazda, and so forth. Each agency also provides reporting and analytics services through dedicated teams, also known as the data analytics team in each agency. And the DAP, the data analytics platform, was developed by us, GroupM, on behalf of the agency to manage advertiser data in a more consistently and efficiently and do it at scale. We also want us to enable us to better partner to our advertisers, but also allow us cross-sell added value services. What use cases do we deliver? Primarily, we're looking at 4 main use cases. The first one is automation of periodic client deliveries, collect data on a cross-channel and put it in a central repository to generate insights, run simulations and optimizations. We also then want to build reporting on top of it, whether it's a dashboard using BI tools like Tableau or Power BI, but also running ad hoc reports on Excel. And also we want to expand the use of the data to run advanced analytics by running algorithm developed by our data scientist teams to provide additional insights and generate additional information to be used by our clients team. what are building blocks for the DAP? The platform has 4 tiers. The first tier is the data marketplace, where we actually collect the data acquisition layer. We have over 250 connectors um, to collect all the relevant data that requires for this to fulfill these use cases. We collect data from planning tools, execution, real time, like DSP, social search, organic, paid, and other sources as well. We then put the data in central repositories. That is the part of the data management layer, where we actually build a custom ETL for both aggregated and event level data, which is our big data solution. We allocate a database, a backend. On the backend, we allocate a database per client, which allow to the teams to access the data through the front-end UI or directly in the backend. This is a solution is fully integrated with the marketplace for the data acquisition, but also allow pull data from custom sources that comes over FTP, email, S3, and other sources. Then the client's team can actually clean the data, transform it, run schema and data verification, export and schedule it to create the reporting tables. The next tier is allowing to run workbench. We call it the analytic workbench. It allows to run the advanced analytics, where we actually execute the pre-made packages built in R or written in R and Python to on the stored data. This package developed by the data scientist teams and allow a larger audience to execute analysis. And then we have the application and dashboarding layer, where we actually have tools to run BI tools like Tableau and Power BI to run the dashboarding. We allow also to run ad hoc reports, queries, do cross-client reporting for create standards, and tools like ROI optimization, etc. These are all homegrown currently, or we move from the homegrown products that base the development in Microsoft environment. We use the .NET framework, SQL Server, and we use Vertica as the big data repository. And we use tools like SSIS and SSAS for advanced integrations and analytics. It's all hosted on-prem data center. To bring it a little more to life, Volkswagen, here's one example. Volkswagen was implemented their solution by Mediacom agency. The data team joined custom sources with that came from the marketplace with custom sources. They create, they cleanse it, they clean it, and then transform it to unified reporting tables and creating dashboards and run optimizations. All right, so what happened throughout the recent year was that we faced some issues on opportunities. The first issue that we have that forced us to start the sunset process was the severe performance issues in our on-prem data center. The data center was outsourced to external vendor, and the vendor was struggling to take over, which created outage of hours and even days, which affected our deliveries and created bad perceptions to the products. We also struggling with providing, because the cost was relatively high, and there was no good option to scale up and down based on the client's requirements. So low budget clients were struggling to pay the fixed costs. And there was no option to pay on demand or scale down when needed. Organizational changes also and some business requirements were changed, so it forced us to consolidate the software development teams. In parallel, some opportunities present themselves. The first one is that the database, the serverless database, which made it more easier to use and maintain and save resources. The other thing is that cloud become more a commodity. So we don't need, or it's easier to convince clients to move their solution to the cloud. They also, the data teams are start to be more open to use non-Microsoft solutions. So this is happened through training and, again, adoption. The AWS Marketplace also got very big and allows to meet a lot of opportunities for third-party tools for ETL that, again, make the choice easier to switch over.
So let's do a quick recap of what we've talked about so far. Shai described GroupM's business and the analytical needs that arise with running cross-channel media campaigns. He discussed the limitations of the analytics platform GroupM relied on previously, specifically the challenges in performance and scalability as business requirements evolve. I'll let Shai continue and highlight ways GroupM overcame these challenges.
So the solution looks what we have today is basically we kept since the use cases didn't really change, and we needed to replace and fix the problematic components only in the legacy solution. So the acquisition pretty much stayed almost the same. We still need to pull data from files received over email and FTP. We still need to pull metrics for planning tools, ad servers, social media, and search from provider like Facebook, Twitter, Seismic, MediaOcean, etc. And we're doing this primarily through an API pool. But the engine that actually enable all of this and orchestrate all of this, we replaced it with, and we choose Matillion for this. The benefits that came from Matillion, obviously, that's an off-the-shelf product. It allows you to use a tool that was developed specifically for purpose and focus on the data transformation, loading transformation. Matillion also has very good support in Python scripts. This is very beneficial to cover the functionality gaps that we find here and there, and we can plug in the Python, what we call the Python building blocks where this functionality is missing, and because it has a good integration with Python, it makes it seamless to the end users. Very easy to deploy Matillion, although it's a server base, but the deployment was very easy. Download an image and it deployed within minutes. It has a great support and relatively high, very good ROI, where it's not the cheapest solution, but it's the rich and the dynamic options and functions that it deliver provide a very good return for the money that the licenses cost. We also moved to a new repository, and we chose Amazon Redshift. Again, primarily because it's a cloud-based solution. It's a platform that runs in AWS. It's a serverless data warehouse. They reduce the cost and save us resources, not only in terms of hardware and software, but also in terms of people to administer the solution. It supports multi-formats. So if you want to use file-based through the Spectrum option, you can run Redshift over file-based database. Easy to scale up and down when needed. We'll talk about this more later. The other advantage that we find out that we can delegate and hand over to different accounts, AWS accounts, so we can set up account structure per agency or region, which is very useful for mainly billing purposes. And the last piece is that because it's been used so a lot, there's a lot of other tools like Tableau and other analytics tools like SAS that are being used by us that already come pre-made with connectors, and it's easy to integrate into Redshift. So we didn't really need to solve other or introduce other tools. And then we didn't really want to change the reporting, the BI tools that we're using. So this was, we kept the Tableau and the Power BI where it's used. Obviously, you use Excel as well. And the advanced analytic platform also working well with Redshift. So let's take a look at the data flow as an example. In this implementation, we're still, everything is being managed and coordinated, scheduled by Matillion. We wanted to collect raw data from, in this specific example, from three sources. One is coming from a file that comes as attachment in the email. One file is delivered over FTP, and some metrics or data that is being pulled by API calls from some social connectors like Facebook and Twitter. The first thing we do, again, through Matillion is to pull the data and store it temporarily in S3. Then the next step in the flow, we load it to some kind of a temporary staging tables. This is because we run this on a daily basis. The data is aggregated daily, and we want to collect it throughout a longer period. We first want to land it in a staging area where we only check and make sure that the latest iteration is good and doesn't have any problems. So we land it on a temporary stage table. Then we load it to an aggregated table where we append it to the rest of the data. And we did it in a way that we want to first join the custom data that comes from both email and FTP, and then join it from the API-based data into one dashboard table where the Tableau and the Excel can pull the data and present and run the BI and do the ad hoc reporting from this table. So this is pretty straightforward and generic use case for our purposes. The different agencies team are using this flow on a daily basis to create their reports and run the analytics. Just to bring it to light, this is a Matillion, one of the Matillion flows that we implemented here. So we created, I believe this is one is dealing with the email specifically. So it's easy to drag and drop. There is a nice UI designer that allows it to easy drag and drop and create the dependencies between the different components, allow us control the flow in terms of success and error, and report back to CloudWatch and send out notifications through email. This specific solution was done over dense computing and Redshift. We choose in this particular, we ended up using a dense computing node to increase the performance. This is a 2-node cluster. And again, the cluster in Redshift allows you to scale based on performance, but also storage. So what are the reasons that we pick Redshift and Matillion? So for Redshift, primarily it's because it's a serverless and it's scalable. So the options to reduce costs by and resources by using the serverless option, but it's also the fact that it's very scalable. So you can go not only in terms of storage, but also in terms of performance. You can choose between different node types to go better performance and increase their cost and vice versa. It's also very good in terms of working with the different formats, like working with files rather than the actual database using the Spectrum options, but also easy to load and unload data using the copy and unload commands. For Matillion, we like the fact that it's really integrates well in AWS. It works well in this ecosystem, works well with all the different components. It also had a nice UI that allows you to create for the design the flows. It's connect the highlight and bring to a nice visual the dependencies, the different colors, allows you to control the statuses, etc. It also works well with Python script that actually gives you a perfect fit of what you need by writing your own enhancement in Python. And it also had a rich connectors that allows you not only process data from FTP and email S3, but also pull data directly from the different providers.
So just to summarize for our attendees, I think what you're saying, Shai, is that you chose Redshift and Matillion because they were easy to deploy and use, helped you efficiently aggregate data from all the disparate sources, and also scale much more seamlessly. I'm sure attendees today are curious to know, what did your journey in implementing this new solution look like?
Okay, so how did we get there? So first, we took the phased approach. The first phase was doing research. We allocate enough time to study what options do we have there, and for this we used AWS public and self-training. We also use AWS support for technical help where needed, and took some a little more high-level help from solution architects that were available to us to provide a feedback about the overall solution. So it's highly recommended to use these options where possible. We learned from webinars and AWS practice, also very rich environment in terms of the resources is available on the AWS sites, and we took advantage of this. We created sandbox and used test drives environments that came from Matillion. Also was very handy to actually do the initial evaluation to determine whether this is a valid tool before we actually go through all the installation and setting this up. Then we moved to the POC, the proof of concept phase, where we we actually established real use cases. So it was important for us to set up real use cases to build the POC on. We use it to these use cases to compare the tools. So we evaluate 3 to 4 different options, database and ETL tools, and we created detailed documentation out of it, so allow us to present our findings to a different audience. So allows to make decisions on what the options are. And then we're moving to the implementation. We started with some beta users to run beta pilots. We try to minimize the impact on production as much as possible. So we kind of run, our approach is to run the implementation in parallel to the actual production environment. And we run this as a software project with SOW, requirements gathering, and project plans. What hurdles did we have? So the first one is how do we switch from Microsoft products? To help us doing this, we use pre-made templates created by us, the central team, to expedite the implementation. We programmatically create new configuration database schemas or configuration sets. We also use Python. We build a Python script library to help us bridge the missing functionality as discussed on Matillion and Redshift as discussed previously. The second hurdle, the second big problem was that the adoption. How do we force the clients team, our clients, to use the new solution or to switch over from the legacy to the new solution? So it started with training. We wanted to provide as much training and get to the new stack open-minded as much as possible. We also get the help from management to help us incentivize and the teams and moving moving to the new technology, but also penalize the one that are more slow. So we tie in the management in to help us in this process. We also took the advantage of the clients that now their perception of storing the data in the cloud change. It helped us force the project and ask the client are asking to move to the cloud's solution. The third one was how do we move for fixed cost structure to a more granular one. So one of the issues on that underlying issue here is that the AWS cost structure can be quite complicated, and if you're not into all the details, you can find it very complex. So what we did, we created our own version, which is much more simplified option. So it helps to bring it to kind of convey the actual cost more clearly to the agencies. We create examples and we also create some comparisons. So how do you if you use this type of node in Redshift, how much it's going to cost, but what it's going to get you in terms of performance. So in summary, our objective was to mainly to replace the ETL tools and underlying databases by moving to the cloud, use the off-the-shelf tools and save costs, reduce admin complexity, unify the solution, and provide more efficient data processing, while still keeping and serving almost the same use cases. So we created template solutions that can easily use centrally, for example, per agency or region for multi-client, or can be cloned to be used by individual clients. This again provides additional flexibility to the agency teams to pick and choose their right solution. Moving forward, we're starting to work with the agencies right now to understand what is the right deployment approach to them, and moving from the pilot to actual implementations phase where needed. You can find additional details for Matillion in this link that is presented here, and more information about Redshift as well. And the last link here is allowed to show you the digital marketing analysis options that are coming as part of the AWS suite. Thank you.
Thank you, Shai, for your time and a very insightful presentation. We'll now take some questions from the audience.